For the amount his work influenced the public, W.E.B. Du Bois is not given enough recognition as being one of the most important black leaders in American history. As a writer, sociologist, and activist, many of his pieces of literature transformed the way that the lives of black citizens were seen in American society. W.E.B. Du Bois not only spoke up against racism, but he did it using data, proof to white citizens that it was a serious problem in American society. Born William Edward Burghardt Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois was born in Great Barrington, Massachusetts in 1868. Because the town was predominantly white, he had very little exposure to African American culture. Despite Du Bois being black, he received great academic support from his white teachers and peers, as he was a very gifted student. It was only until he attended college at Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, that he had first-hand experience with racism and the effects of Jim Crow laws. Observations of the unfair treatment of blacks solely due to skin color caused Du Bois to become extremely passionate about fighting for civil rights. After earning his bachelor's degree at Fisk, Du Bois continued his studies at Harvard. He gets his master's degree and soon after is selected for a study abroad program at University of Berlin. His experiences in Germany exposed him to new perspectives that shaped his ideas of the world and racism. Du Bois went back to the U.S., and in 1895 he became the first black person to receive a Ph.D. from Harvard. He paid for his education using money from summer jobs, scholarships, and loans from friends and several churches. W.E.B. Du Bois produced many writings that influenced the way America viewed slavery and civil rights. He wrote his first book, The Suppression of the African Slave Trade to the United States of America, 1638 to 1870, in 1896. This book became the American standard to educate about slavery. In 1897, Du Bois wrote the groundbreaking essay, The Striving of the Negro People, which explained to white readers how it feels to be a victim of racism. Also in 1897, he revealed how slavery still affected African American citizens by conducting a series of studies on black Southern households in Virginia, Alabama, and Georgia through the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Mapping out the Seventh Ward led to Du Bois's discovery that poverty, crime, lack of education, and distrust of those outside the community were the black community's greatest challenges. The study was published as the Philadelphia Negro, a Social Study, in 1899, which was the first case study of an African American community. The publication of this study marked the beginning of Du Bois's expansive writing career. 4 years later, in 1903, he wrote The Souls of Black Folk, which consisted of a collection of 14 essays. In these essays, he debated Booker T. Washington's main principle of his political program, which was the idea that voting and civil rights were less important to black progress than acquiring property and achieving economic self-sufficiency. Through this piece of writing, Du Bois brought racial and national consciousness to the ideal of human brotherhood, making The Souls of Black Folk one of the most impactful and provocative works of African American literature. In 1909, Du Bois co-founded the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, and served as editor of its monthly magazine, The Crisis. He also was an advocate for Pan-Africanism, which is the belief that people of African descent have common interests and should be unified. He helped organize several Pan-African congresses to free African colonies from European powers. W.E.B. Du Bois used his voice to advocate for civil rights through various essays and books that brilliantly exposed the issues of racial discrimination in the U.S. His use of data and statistics to prove that black people were oppressed gained the attention of Americans, black and white, all across the nation. He deserves much more credit for the awakening of racial problems, and without his pieces of literature to educate the public, the U.S. would not have made as much progress as it has today.